Here we go.
See anything, Brad?
Yeah.
Oh.
You want to just say we're waiting first?
We're just waiting. We're waiting for everybody to join, guys.
No problem.
Oh, I see the participants now. Okay, sorry, I didn't see them before. Okay, great. All right. Look like we got.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see you.
That's good.
Yep. Whenever you feel like you're ready.
Yeah, we got 100. Look like 100 plus right now.
114. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. 9:01. We'll get going here. Give it just a few more minutes. We've got a number of people joining. Really appreciate everybody joining today's webinar. Looking like a nice turnout. Okay, let's get started. All right, welcome to Elevator World's webinar series. I'm T. Bruce McKinnon, and I'm the president of Elevator World, and I'll be your host for today. Due to the coronavirus and the limiting of personal contacts this year, Elevator World decided to offer webinars in addition to our traditional media. This is the first webinar hosted by Elevator World this year. However, we have a number of others that will be scheduled out and announced over the next few months. So without further ado, today's presentation is Clearing the Air on Elevator Sterilization, which is brought to you by Sterilift and CEC Elevator Cab Corp. Our presenters are Nick Gretzuk, the Executive Vice President of CEC and the inventor of the patent pending product Sterilift. Also, Carlos Vanga, who is the president of CEC. Both Nick and Carlos have a long history in the elevator industry with a combined experience of over 55 years. I'll be your host today, and Brad O'Gwin will be the co-host, and will monitor all chat and question and answers. Please feel free to post questions throughout the presentation because the presenters will answer these questions at the end. All right. Nick, you're ready to go.
It's me first. Yeah, thank you, Bruce, for that introduction, and thank you for everybody being here. First, we would just like to thank everyone for taking time from their busy day. Wait for Nick to kind of just get the screen up. Thank you. There you go.
Yep.
Okay. And I'd like to thank everybody for registering and being part of what we feel will be something big, something desperately needed, and something long overdue. CEC Elevator has been a loyal and trusted manufacturer of high-quality elevated cabs, entrances, and doors for over 28 years. Supplying the elevator, real estate, and construction industries, we have succeeded based on a principle of learning of our customers' needs, learning of the most important details required to be a great supplier, and the attention to those details to maintain the highest respect that a supplier can achieve. We succeed because we listen, we adapt, we innovate, and we put forward our absolute best efforts to always push to be better at every step, at every product, and at everything we do. With this principle, and with focus now on the needs of our customers, ourselves, and our world, We focus now on the improvement of health conditions within the elevators we provide. We now present to you all Sterilift. We at CEC pride ourselves at working to provide the best solutions for the most difficult and intricate of tasks. Myself and my partner, Nick, have over 27 years of elevator cab and elevator experience, each constantly working to innovate and achieve the almost impossible. It is our understanding, knowledge, and our ability to create outside the box that truly sets us apart from all others. These same principles now include focusing direct attention to the issues with COVID, public health, and complications with the constraints of the elevator. Nick?
As we have all heard throughout the years and throughout many projects, the elevator, to simply put it, has very poor ventilation. We hear the "it's too hot, it's too stuffy, we can't breathe in there" from our customers constantly. With the limited solutions of the past, such as merely just increasing the fan's cubic feet per minute draw, and with great concern to our now screaming reminder of the need to properly circulate and clean air from the COVID pandemic, we've created Sterilift to address these issues. We've all heard the CDC and World Health Organization recommendations of wearing masks, socially distancing yourselves, limiting use of elevators, and cutting capacity. However, will this solve the problem? Or will it merely put a Band-Aid on issues that we can all work together to resolve? And in the same contemplation, create a new major issue of how to reopen and how to get back to work if we simply cannot move everyone to where they need to go efficiently and safely. With experts pushing CDC and World Health Organization to acknowledge the actual extent of severity of the airborne nature of COVID, as well as the CDC released contact trace studies, such as one woman infecting over 70 people from simply one 60-second elevator ride, we aim our focus and attention to the specific issues of an elevator. Issue number one, there is little or no circulation of air in an elevator. Issue number two, the exhaust fans, if there actually is one and if it's actually working, really only works when the car's at rest. Issue number three, due to limited circulation, contaminants can just stay inside the car. Issue number four, though there is a flow of air in the shaft from stack effect, the process either pushes the contaminated air back into the car or pushes it out onto occupied floors. Issue number five, without addressing the lack of circulation, viruses, germs, and contaminants are left to just linger in the cab, both in airborne form and allowed to settle on surfaces. In addition to these problems are compounded by several physical and logistic issues. One, the use of an elevator is unavoidable, whether for high-rise access in working, living, shopping, medical use, or ADA access. Elevators are and will remain to be a major and necessary part of our daily lives. Two, within an elevator, 6 feet of space is most usually unobtainable for social distancing. Three, with the constant loading and unloading of passengers, new risks are introduced just as quickly as they may leave. Four, due to the nature of constant use of most elevators, continual cleaning for optimal sanitization is impossible. Five, and most importantly, though we all see the floor stickers, and though we will all try, it is inevitable that people will crowd cars as their patience wears thin, waiting and waiting and waiting for their turn.
So that all being said, Sterilift has been carefully designed and created to address all of these issues effectively through definition of a true circulated airflow, an increase in air movement, introduction of germicidal sterilization, and by use of filtration techniques to clean the air and maximize sterilization.
Proper airflow is introduced to an elevator by contaminated air exhausting out from the canopy. The air is then forced through our purification and sterilization unit to remove contaminants and treat the air with germicidal UVC irradiation. The fresh, clean air then being forced in at the base, creating a distinct, continual, semi-closed loop circulation. We've designed our system with a fan capable of approximately 2 exchanges of air per minute on a typical 3,500-pound car, and utilized engineered duct reduction and enlargement techniques to control the speed and flow of air throughout the system. Typically, a 3,500-pound commercial type elevator consists of 290 cubic feet of air volume. We have designed this system with a 710 cubic foot per minute fan to easily and efficiently accomplish this. The fan additionally is within a semi-closed loop arrangement, being sealed off from the shaftway to not allow in any shaftway air or be subject to stack effect or piston effect pressures, which could reduce the fan's efficiency or introduce any harmful VOCs, mold, or smoke from the shaftway. We've strategically introduced germicidal 254 nanometer UVC radiation, located safely outside of exposure to passengers to sterilize the air as it passes through the system. The use of ultraviolet energy, specifically UVC, has been medically and scientifically proven method for sterilization and has actually been in use since the late 1800s. Recently, in the past few decades, used by many countries in the treatment of water purification, surface sanitization, and most recently in the treatment of air for sterilization purposes. UVC has been carefully researched in its germicidal properties and its specific effects within the ultraviolet electromagnetic spectrum. UVC being within the 200 to 300 nanometer range, and most specifically peak germicidal efficacy at 254 nanometers, has been proven in the countless studies to be extremely effective for germicidal properties. UVC light's molecular destructive property causes lesions, or what's called dimers, within the molecule's DNA and RNA structure. The process of inactivation of the organism is both swift, at approximately 50 to 100 dimers per second, and effective at a 99.99% rate of success. This UVC chamber, and I apologize, I clicked too quick. This UVC chamber is housed in between two MERV 13 CDC recommended filters to clean the air of particles passing through the system and to ensure both the maximum time of exposure within the UVC chamber, as well as maximize life of the UVC source. The initial front filter is intended to filter most particles such as dust, pollen, some bacteria, and other particulates from airflow in order to slow the flow of smaller particles like germs, bacteria, and virus smaller than 0.3 microns. The MERV 13 filter would also filter out most virus carriers, such as sneeze or cough viral carriers, as these airborne particles generally range larger than 0.3 microns. The second filter after the UVC source again helps slow the movement of particles for additional irradiation treatment, and again filters viral carriers and impurities before the air works its way into the exhaust plenum and ultimately back into the car. The result is double filtered and UVC treated air being forced into the elevator. All of this we've carefully designed and engineered through our own experience and knowledge, as well as in coordination with some of the industry's top consultant professionals, to be as efficient in installation as possible and in as many conditions as possible. Through both our own beta test installations and those of several other elevator contractors, we have fine-tuned this installation process to be within one team day in most circumstances. That's whether a Sterilift system is being installed alone on an existing elevator or installed during an elevator cab remodel. We've designed the unit to be canopy direct mounted, hung on the side of the crosshead with our included universal adjustable brackets, which adjust from 2 to 4 inches in crosshead width and 10 to 12 inches in crosshead height, or as some elevator contractors have found easier, and of course with your verification at the top of shaft code required safe clearances is there, on top of the crosshead by directly bolting in place. The resulting versatility and adjustability of installation has been maximized to allow for installation even on some very tight conditions. And bottom line
is no matter what way you look at it or flip it, really, Sterilift can work to clear the air on sterilization in most any elevator. Cleaning, purifying, and sterilizing the air around our most precious and valuable assets, the riding public, within the elevators we provide.
Before we come to a close and move on to hopefully answer most of your questions, we would like to stress that our intentions with development of Sterilift have been and will always be to help make our world a little safer and healthier within our specific abilities. Our design, research, development, and final product has been meticulously and specifically designed to an elevator, bearing in mind all facets of constraints within our industry, code compliance and safety. We have beta tested installations in several applications ourselves, as well as participated in closely communicated installations with several elevator contractors from coast to coast. In our efforts to provide the best results, we've made adjustments from our prototype system to help perfect the design as best as possible, and have been conducting ongoing in-house testing of the efficiency of a continual basis to ensure the active performance of the system in comparison to standard conditions. Our mock-up cab in our Bronx facility stands as a testament to our commitment of Sterilift being the premier option for elevator air purification and sterilization. In continuation of this commitment, we are currently working to obtain third-party verification of our performance both in live active use elevators, this being in coordination with an owner of a completed installation in use already now, as well as lab tested results in coordination with Intertech, a nationally recognized testing laboratory. Sterilift will soon be labeled with ETL listing for both US and Canada for UL 507 conformance, CARB certification for California compliance, and lab certified for efficiency in filtration purification, as well as in the efficacy log reduction microbial testing of various viruses and bacteria inactivation.
CEC will continue to innovate and improve ourselves, our products, and our systems, such as our recently revealed Sterile Cab, incorporating Sterilift into a new cab enclosure seamlessly and with increased efficiency, as well as with more innovations to come.
We are focusing on helping us all, making a difference and providing means to make all of our lives a little safer and a little healthier. We hope to achieve our goals, hope to create new standards, hope to develop new and improved technologies. And we sincerely hope that you will join us as have these recently completed projects. As this video will show in multiple applications with multiple conditions, Sterilift serves to provide these elevators with preventative risk mitigating measures to ensure most optimal air quality conditions for the riding public.
At this time, we again thank you all for your time. Thanking you for listening and allowing us to offer you what we've learned and developed. We now express our utmost gratitude and appreciation to Elevator World for this opportunity, and we graciously offer the floor back to Mr. McKinnon to present your questions.
Okay, Nick and Carlos, we do have a bunch of questions out here. I'm gonna kind of go down them and see if we can answer as many as we can. Bill's asking, how often do the filters need to be replaced, and what is the lifespan of the UVC lights?
Nick, you want that?
I'm sorry, what was that question?
How often do the filters need to be replaced, and what is the lifespan of the UVC lights?
The UVC light bulb, we particularly use a brand called Ushio, which is one of your top quality brands. There are other manufacturers. This one in particular is, I believe it's 8,000 hours, which equates to pretty much a year. So our suggested of maintenance on the bulb itself is replacement at a year. The filters themselves, our filter manufacturers custom making these for us under application of a normal elevator. They suggested that you can go out as far as a year. However, we're suggesting that filters get replaced every 6 months just to make sure that we're fresh, we're clean, and everything is working properly.
Perfect. John's asking, please explain how current codes regarding top and bottom ventilation requirements in the cab for smoke in the hoistway work with this closed system product.
Sure, no problem. We actually are not taking away from any of the code required natural ventilation. The base vents actually still stay, they still stay open. And the fan itself is designed to be put in conjunction with the exhaust fan, or as some elevator companies have actually opted to, replacing the exhaust fan. In both instances, you have forced ventilation that is creating that opening that could still be used for your calculation purposes along with the openings around the car door. What was the second part of that question now?
Explain the current codes regarding the top and bottom ventilation requirements.
Oh, well, current code is basically 3.5% of your floor area. So that has to be divided between the top and the bottom of the elevator. And that still remains. Most elevators or all elevators should have that. We're not taking away from that. Oh, and I think the other question was about smoke. Smoke in an elevator shaftway. This system is what we call a semi-closed loop. What that means is that from the canopy of the elevator back into the base of the elevator, this system is completely enclosed, which means that it's not subject to any shaftway air infiltration, or anything that's inside the shaft does not get inside the system. It's basically taking and removing the air that's inside the elevator. It's putting it through a filtration and sterilization process, and then putting that air back into the car. So shaftway air would not be applicable.
Perfect. What date do you expect the third-party verification to be completed?
I was hoping for this webinar.
Yeah, exactly.
We actually received yesterday preliminary results. It's a month-long trial being conducted by an actual air quality monitoring firm in one of the states that we've had an installation go in. They've given us the 1 week results so far, which look phenomenal. What they're looking to try to get from the air quality company is some kind of a summary that they can give us at least an opinion on what this system does for just a 1 week period, barring waiting a month for the entire test. Hopefully we'll have that very, very, very soon.
That's as well as the local jurisdiction approvals? Same?
Local jurisdiction approvals, actually, we've spoken to a couple of them, but I can definitely tell you that in every city that this has been installed so far, including New York City on multiple ones, we have not had any problems at all with any jurisdictions at all. In fact, New York's technical response to their review of our system was cool setup. So I'm not having any problems with any jurisdictions at all regarding any code, and that includes actual elevator testing, including full load drop testing during modernizations.
Lee was asking, has this been tested with coronavirus?
No, it has not. Not many products at all have been tested with coronavirus. However, I will categorize coronavirus. Coronavirus actually is a very large amount of different types of viruses, ranging from, believe it or not, your common cold all the way up to COVID-19. SARS, H1N1, and several other viruses are actually coronavirus, and those have been proven to be inactivated very, very effectively by UVC. When I have Intertech test it, they will be testing on several different viral compounds and bacterial compounds. And they're also going to be opting to test, there's another germ that a lot of companies are testing for that is actually more difficult to kill. If this kills that, you know, the standpoint is that this would kill coronavirus. Right. No, nobody's really tested any type of system for specifically corona, but UVC has been actually tested on certain things, and including COVID-19. I believe Binghamton University is testing that now, and they're pretty much preliminary confirming that it's killed just like SARS and H1N1 is.
Okay. Van was wanting to know, do you use the existing ventilator cutout for the intake? We are advised that California does not allow this.
It can go in either way. We originally designed it that it would be a new cutout. The question is coming up about, can you use the existing cutout? It's kind of falling down on California's one issue. We have to discuss that with them. They seem to be probably one of the most problematic in terms of getting commenting from. But the bottom line is that in research, we're talking with some code experts, including federal employees that are in charge of code. In review of code, fans are not required at all in the passenger elevators. The only time a fan is actually required by ASME NCA 17.1 is only when it is an observation type car with glass walls and is subject to direct exposure to sunlight. That's the only time that it actually requires a physical fan on the car. So with that said, most of the elevator companies that are installing these are removing the fan. They are putting this in place of the fan, replacing the forced ventilation of an exhaust fan with this, and citing that code doesn't require the fan in the first place. So there should be no objection by any jurisdiction of putting this in place of the fan.
And Nick, you could also say, even when, other than California, they've all passed by the inspectors already by replacing the fan. And even California, as replacing the fan, that wasn't a comment. I mean, they were allowing it to replace the fan. They just wanted better air calculation.
Yeah.
To redo the air calculation. So
That is
they're not saying that it cannot replace the fan. They just want to make sure the proper air calculation is done correctly. And then with California, we just got to give them the carb testing.
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct. This is Chicago, New York City, Washington, D.C. All of these cities have not had comment or any objection to replacing the fan.
All right, a couple here. How safe is it to clean the filter or remove it from the system? And how much does a unit weigh?
The weight of the unit, I'll start on first. It's under 40 pounds. It's coming out to be between 35 and 40 pounds. So it's not incredibly heavy. The servicing of it, we are putting together a maintenance brochure to basically tell people how to maintain it. I've been asked, by a couple of people, they said, you have a filter in here that could be trapping corona or could be trapping viruses. How safe is this to touch? Should we be using hazmat suits? My response to that is that if there's any place in the building that I can pretty much guarantee is not going to have active germs on it, it is inside that unit. Those two filters are actually subject to the same UVC radiation of everything that's going through it, but on a continual basis. Anything that's on those filters should be dead. However, we are still going to put together safety protocol just to make safety first and foremost. And we will suggest that some kind of gloves, either nitrile gloves or latex gloves, are worn when handling the filter and putting it inside a plastic bag and sealing it prior to throwing it away. But in terms of harmful things on the actual filters themselves, I don't see that being an issue.
Okay. Is the product applicable to mod jobs or only new cab installations?
I actually originally designed this to be retrofitted onto an existing elevator that's not undergoing any work. But it can also be done very, very simply on a remodel project where if the elevator cab company is there doing the actual remodel at that time, it literally cuts the time of installing the system itself. But it's also for new construction projects. We can very easily pre-mount these on top of canopies and have all the ductwork pre-mounted. And like we spoke about in the webinar, we've also come out with another product called Sterile Cab, which is a shell that all your ductwork and your integration of Sterilift are pre-built into the cab itself, into the shell itself, without changing any footprint, wall thicknesses, or any type of major changes in the installation process.
Okay. I think you kind of answered this, but if it says if the elevator mechanic must change the filter, is there a training and handling process set up to make sure that activities are safe? You talked about coming up with a manual and a brochure for that.
Yes, we're going to come up with a manual on how to maintain these things. And in terms of risk of touching those filters or touching the lamps, we designed this system utilizing aluminum for two reasons. Obviously, because I'm an elevator guy at heart, I know weight is a problem. But I also specifically chose aluminum because in researching with UVC properties and how to actually increase the strength and increase the efficiency of it, I found only two metals or two materials that don't absorb UVC radiation, that they actually reflect it, and one of those being aluminum. We've made this box out of 6064 aluminum, which is a good quality grade aluminum, and it's reflecting that UVC light. So those filters are really just right at the forefront and right behind those UVC light sources with the reflective properties of the UVC radiation going on in there. Those filters are being cleaned better than anything inside that elevator or anything inside that system.
Perfect. Gio is wanting to know what the cost of the UV lamp unit is and the MERV 13 filters.
They're inexpensive. We can sell them directly. I believe that the UVC lamp, I believe, is $35. And the filters themselves, I think, are either $15 or $18 a piece. So they're not bank breakers. But again, like I was saying before, we designed this so that the unit components are easily replaceable. They're economical, so we're not talking about LED boards that need to be replaced at hundreds of dollars. The lamps are actually mercury lamps. They're fluorescent based, and they're inexpensive. They're easily obtainable. You can get them from multiple manufacturers. And the filters themselves, though we had them custom created for our unit, that basically was for stock purposes, so we can actually have someone to fall back on to get large amounts of stock quickly. But to be honest with everybody, when I built the prototype, the actual box filters that I got, MERV 13, 1 inch, 12 by 12, I actually ordered from Amazon. So they're very easily obtainable, even if you didn't want to purchase from us.
I'll turn it over to T. Bruce. You want to ask a few questions, T?
Yeah, great presentation, guys. Really, really interesting.
Thank
you. Just a couple things that come to my mind. I mean, air and water purification is really, it's not a new process. It's been around a long time. So, you know, I guess what I'm kind of wondering is, you know, what makes Sterilift unique compared to some other products, you know, other guys out there trying to do similar things?
There's several key elements of Sterilift in the actual design of it that makes it very, very unique. One being is that on top of having a germicidal type of effect on an elevator, which we all know is important, one of the biggest problems with an elevator right now is not having circulation. The natural ventilation and the exhaust fan, if it actually happens to be there and is working, really is not doing anything for ventilation unless the car is literally sitting at rest with the car doors open and not subject to any type of shaft way movement of air from stack effect or piston effect from other cars. That's really the only time you get any use out of that exhaust fan. As soon as that elevator starts to move, both the pressure of the air that's pushing on the car from piston effect of the elevator going through the shaft way and the stack effect blowing either which way in the shaft is going to wind up decreasing the effectiveness of a standard exhaust fan, and in some cases actually negating it or reversing the flow. Sterilift was designed specifically on the basis of creating a distinctive defined flow of air, an actual circulation of air that is continual. It goes from the base all the way up to the ceiling, and it just continues around in that loop, constantly cleaning that air. Something that doesn't exist in any elevator, and something that, looking at most other systems that I'm seeing out there on the market, they're not really capitalizing on that at all. One of the other things that I'm seeing that actually, in all frankness, concerns me a lot, and talking to a lot of elevator guys, I don't know if the concern is shared, but I'm also seeing a lot of these systems that are either dumping in electrically charged ions, which are unfortunately going to be detrimental to computer boards and things like that. They're dumping in positive and negative charged ions, which is a wonderful germicidal product. However, it adds moisture to the air, which I'm sure we all know about moisture in elevators, and other products that they're using as a basis of their quote unquote fresh air. They're using the elevator shaft air. Number one, I've been working in elevators for almost 27 years now, and on the modernization side, and I've been in a lot of elevator shaft ways. I've never seen one that I would consider to be fresh air. And number two, if there's ever a condition in the building where there's either smoke or some kind of a chemical agent or anything that can harm people that happens to get into that elevator shaft way, those systems being proposed are going to pump that right into the elevator. And the first thing that pops into my mind from coming from an elevator contractor a while back, where I handled about 1,300 units, the last thing I would want to be called by a lawyer is asking me a question of why did my equipment fail, which caused a smoke condition in the elevator shaft way that I'm responsible for, and then the equipment that I installed on the elevator to keep people safe brought smoke from my fire into the car and hurt or, God forbid, killed somebody. It's something that really I don't understand the thought process in a lot of these things that are going out. The only other systems that I've really kind of seen out there is trying to utilize UVC light, which is great, but they're trying to put it inside an elevator. I've looked at this in the past. Actually, before I even came up with Sterilift, I looked at putting UVC inside the car. I've actually developed a board that ties in 4 different safety devices to ensure that no one's inside the car when that UVC light goes off. And I still am at the point where I'm so nervous and so concerned about accidentally irradiating somebody that we have not put that system together. And the bottom line was I came down to one basic problem. If someone's inside the elevator, the car gets stuck and they get nervous or they have a health condition and they pass out, there's very little way to definitively tell whether or not there's a person in the elevator if they're not moving. So with that, we just kind of came away from putting UVC inside the car.
Very good, very good. We really had terrific turnout on this webinar, guys. Over 145, 146 people attending. We had over 200 plus register. Anything else, Nick or Carlos, you guys want to point out before we wrap it up? I mean, there's a number of other questions we can certainly.
I know I'm seeing them roll across the screen. I can answer them real quick, but
if you guys, go right ahead. If you guys, we've got time. Feel free
to. There's one lamp inside the system. That's pretty much all you need. That's a question that's up right now. The entire system itself, because this is a very energy efficient fan. The fan and the light, we're only drawing a little bit less than an amp out of a 110 circuit, so it's extremely efficient, and power on top of the car should be not a problem at all. I'm trying to think of some other questions that I saw popping up on the screen.
Nick, if you hit chat this side, you'll see them on the bottom. There's a whole bunch of questions, and it shows up on your right-hand side.
Let me see. There's one lamp. The material cost for a full unit. You guys can come to our website and see all the rest of the information on that. I mean, basically the cost of the system is predicated on where we do understand that some buildings have more than one elevator, and yes, there is discount with quantity. So I encourage everybody to reach out to us and we can give you a price list on what the actual cost is. Total installed unit cost, again, same thing. If we install, my guys, we're Union Local 3. We only operate in the New York area, so that's New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Pennsylvania a little bit. Right now, we're running at $18.75 a day, so that would be $18.75. If it's going in from an elevator contractor, obviously it's whatever team data you guys would be charging.
Nick, another one to say how noisy the unit is.
Is the fan loud inside the car? Okay. We actually made this out of a 710 cubic foot per minute fan. And what I found is the fan has pretty much zero vibration, zero noise, no squeaking, no big problems like that. And the fan is actually very, very, very quiet. The only thing is that moving 710 cubic feet per minute through a duct makes noise. Basically, if you could think about a standard fan on top of the car, if you had that running at full capacity, it's about twice as loud because it's moving about twice the amount of volume of air. Most customers that I'm coming up to, though, when they talk about, is this thing as quiet as a regular fan or what kind of noise, they actually want to hear this because the sound of that air being removed from the car in a large volume is basically confirmation to people coming into it that something is being done, that the air is being actively taken out of the car quickly. It's being treated germicidally. It's being put back inside the car as fresh air. So a lot of people actually want to hear that. But just to go into some of the technical portions of it, this unit does come with adjustability. So you actually have 6 speeds of that fan. If you did bring it down to, let's say, the third speed, it would probably equate a little bit more than what a standard fan would be taking out of the car. And it's about the same sound. So it's something to where if someone is, really upset and they say it's way too loud, you always could bring it down in speed a little bit. What is the effective UV light output and how does this work with a high volume fan? That's a great question. The UV light output basically is 254 nanometers, which is peak germicidal out of the electromagnetic spectrum for UVC light. So the actual light output is about 4.5 watts. What we did to increase the efficiency of this light is we've done a couple things. The way we've arranged those filters and by playing with the sizes of the ductwork going into it, we've effectively decreased the speed of the air that's going into the actual UVC chamber. So it increases the actual time that it's in there, and also put in the 2 filters on either side to kind of trap everything inside there and also decrease the speed of particles that are in the air because they have to bounce through that first filter to get through the UV box. And we've also, again, like I mentioned before, made the box out of aluminum, which reflects it. So we've slowed the air, increased the amount of time of exposure, increased the strength by keeping the particles in the air as close to the bulb as possible, and increase the strength by giving a reflector property inside there so our wavelengths are not absorbed or lost. They just continually keep bouncing around inside there. DC installed. I can't say yet. We're working on several projects in DC. There are some private ones. The one that we're waiting for is a privately held building. One of the, I believe, 80 or 90 buildings that owner actually has. What they did and what the test is going to show, and we do show that on our website, is they had a building that had 6 elevators, a commercial building. Since the building is lightly occupied at this time, they took the opportunity to shut down 4 elevators to force everybody into only 2 cars. One had a standard fan, one had a Sterilift. All I could say at this point is that that owner is asking for a price to do all 90 buildings. So I guess he liked the actual results. We're also working with governmental things in DC as well that we can't really speak about yet. But as soon as those things are taken care of, we can hopefully let everybody know where we are.
I think another one that when you ask, I see a few of them like this, just how the power supply, to the fan, I think just to kind of say how it goes on top of the car, because I see a few questions on it.
Well, we've actually wired everything together between the safety circuits, the on-off switches, the UV light, and also the fan. We've wired to one single 110 three-prong plug. Basically, I originally designed this that you can simply plug this into a receptacle on top of the car, which usually exists as a convenience acceptable as part of your TOCI. However, I have been seeing elevator companies that do one of 2 things. They'll either branch out and make another circuit and put another GFCI that you can plug it into, or I've been seeing elevator companies that are removing the fans. They're taking and they're actually tying it into the fan circuit, which is also 110, and I believe usually at least 5 to 10 amps. So it would definitely run this. And one of the benefits to actually doing that that I'm seeing is that you can actually turn the unit on and off with the regular fan key switch, which some buildings like. They want to turn it off. I don't know why, but they want to turn it off for a point in time. And this system actually has been manufactured that if you do remove power and then put power back on, it'll return right to where it was set right before. Have we looked into far UVC 222? Yes, absolutely. And when that does come available and it's actually tested and approved by the FDA that it's not going to injure people, we will hopefully be at the forefront of that as well. Far UVC, for anybody that doesn't know what that is, it's 222 nanometer, which is lower on the UVC spectrum. It has the same germicidal properties as 254 nanometers, but it doesn't have any destructive, supposedly, it doesn't have any destructive properties to any organism that actually has a skin or an exoskeleton. So what they're saying with far UVC is that when that does come out, when it's tested, when it's proven scientifically not to hurt a human being, that you can literally turn that on and be standing in front of it, all the germs are dead and you're fine. That's something that they're still in the process of testing to make sure that there's no initial or long-term damages from that particular level. If that does become something, we're already talking to one of the forefront manufacturers for far UVC, and I will be at the forefront of getting that inside elevators if and when that does become approved. Have I compared this to Otis's cab purifier? Yes, and basically everything that I mentioned before about utilizing shaft air, the dangers of smoke, contaminations, things like that that are in the shaft, and also what I mentioned about moisture in the air are all applicable to Otis's unit that they're providing right now, which is what's called a plasma cluster ion type system, and it's utilizing shaft air to put into the car. I just want to step back for a second and talk about other products. One of the things that I don't like doing, and as a rule, I've never wanted to do in my career, is ever talk down about somebody else's product. A lot of time, a lot of work, and a lot of thought, and a lot of care went into trying to put something out there to help people. And all I can say is that I've looked at many other disinfecting products and systems and things that could possibly go in. There's a lot of things out there that work very, very well. There's a lot of processes between ions and even hydrogen peroxide and a microscopic type of mist that goes into things. There's a lot of ways to kill germs. The only thing that's being forgotten in the haste of getting everything out there and trying to get something in an elevator is a lot of things are not permissible and a lot of things are not applicable to an elevator. And one of the things that we need to really, really just be mindful of is it open up to the shaft because it has inherent dangers? And will it put anything into the air that could either be an irritant or dangerous to people? Or is there anything being put into the air that could be detrimental to the elevator's equipment, whether it be very quickly or in time? Because I believe that as an elevator guy, if I installed something on an elevator and even a year down the road or 6 months down the road, there's a water damage issue and no leaks in the building, I don't think they're gonna, I think that would be a very big problem in terms of who's gonna pay for that stuff.
As far as the other one, the lead time, we're
Oh,
stocking
that's
about.
Sarah's question. Hello, Sarah.
Yeah, I know that was Sarah. I saw that.
Um,
Kathy also asked for what is the lead time of the materials. We're stocking about 50 as of right now. 50 on stock pretty much at all time, depending, of course, on how large the order is. We can pretty much get it out to you almost within immediate time. But that's for the delivery of the unit. If you're tri-state, obviously, and we need to help you install per se, then of course it goes in accordance with our manpower availability and everything else. But the units right now, we are stocking at least 50 to 60 at a time right now. And then obviously if it's a much larger order, we'll ramp up for that.
I see another good one. Have we used dosimeter cards to validate the UVC's output and the time needed for remediation? That's a great question, Robert, and I thank you for that one. We are one of the first companies, I believe, that actually will be doing tests like that. Right now, we're contracted with Intertech. Intertech is doing several things for us, so everybody knows that we're around the country. They are going to be doing a few things. They're getting us an ETL label for both the United States and Canada for safety. They are doing CARB certification for California emissions compliance and to make sure that these are acceptable by California standards as an air purification system. And right after they do all that, they are going to be doing efficacy testing on us. And specifically, they're going to be testing the efficiency and the actual particle reduction and VOC reduction of the filters themselves. And they are also going to be conducting actual physical testing on the UVC lamp for efficacy in terms of killing germs and viruses. And they are also going to be testing that based upon the actual system's use. Right now, I can probably put up on the screen 100 different test results on what UVC does to all the germs and bacteria in the world. But we all know that that's not applicable because we're using that in a different aspect. Most tests are done on UVCs in a controlled environment, in a controlled laboratory, under controlled circumstances. Elevators are anything but controlled. And I want to get actual physical information and confirmation on the UVC's efficacy in terms of killing everything, including any type of virus I could possibly get done for my specific use for this system. Everything else that is out there says it definitely will work. I want to actually show how much it will work. So the answer is no, but we are working on that.
I mean, preliminary, Nick, you could also add that we've done our own air quality control test here in our shop. And honestly, the results have been fantastic. And if you can imagine the air quality in a manufacturing concern going all day, it's been a huge difference with or without the fan, you know, the unit.
Yeah, we did a couple different tests. We did a test on just the general conditions on the inside of the elevator with use of Sterilift to actually record the VOC content and the PM content down to, I believe it's 2.5. That's inside the elevator. And that elevator is basically sitting inside a cab manufacturing facility. And anybody that's been on my side of the industry knows that that is bad. We also did some testing, basically side-by-side testing of the Sterilift working to not only keep the conditions inside the car as compared to just utilizing a standard fan. And we've also done an evacuation test to see, we've injected into the elevator some VOCs, some organic compounds, some particles inside the car, and actually looked to see the evacuation out of the elevator using either a standard fan or Sterilift. And kind of what I saw, which brings me back to the circulation issue, is even at rest, sitting on my shop floor, I have a 3,500 pound car that's manufactured, that's sealed off with a little bit of an opening for a door, just like a regular elevator would be. and also has the fan opening, has the Sterilift on it, and has natural ventilation. I kind of watched a phenomenon with the fan, just using the fan, to where I was watching the particles in the VOCs kind of going up as a peak, then they come down a little bit, but then they go back up again, then they come down a little bit. And it took a long time for it to actually start evacuating half of what was inside the car. What that was telling to me is that even though you have an exhaust fan in the car, the fact that you have some kind of a negating pressure coming from the natural ventilation that allows that pressure of that flow of air to be affected, because it's usually a lower CFM fan, like peaking around 375 CFMs, there's a tendency for stuff that's a little bit lighter than air, which is what we have to worry about, that is enough to stay airborne, but heavy enough not to follow the flow. It's really just kind of flowing around in a circle inside the car. So whatever's in there is not really leaving. That's another reason why we wanted to increase that efficiency of that fan, not only to maximize cleaning the inside of the cab, but to also create that flow, so whatever's floating around in that air gets away from everybody. I mean, first and foremost, get it up above everybody towards the ceiling, so it's not collecting on wall panels, people's clothes, can't be breathed. And then once it goes through that system, pumping in enough fresh air to keep that flow constantly going in the up direction. The differences between the two systems were very astronomical. There was, we were showing 75 to 80% reductions of particles in the air. We were showing, in terms of the evacuation, coming down to almost a 0.0 at the Sterilift, where the fan still had everything sitting in there. And I can say preliminarily that the 1 week test result of the 2 elevators that were running next to it were actually kind of exceeding that. So we're very excited to start getting those readings in, that we can start presenting to everybody as a third party, not just a salesman trying to sell you a pitch. But that'll be coming very soon.
And Nick, one last one, 'cause I know Bruce wants us to wrap it up, but
Yeah.
I saw one here, which I think is also good. We've been asked that question before about the ozone smell, from the bulb.
There actually is zero ozone smell. This bulb specifically is coated, and it's made out of a quartz crystal, and it's actually coated that this bulb creates zero ozone, which is why I'm not worried about getting CARB certification. But there is no ozone created at all, and the smell inside the car, from what I've been hearing from people, is actually fresh, nice, clean. The comments that I get back when people ask about smell of the system is they say, well, we hear nothing, we smell nothing. So with that in case, I'm happy.
All right. I think that's it, right, Bruce? You want us to wrap it up, you're saying?
Yeah. Hey, sounds great, guys. One thing that jumped out on the questions for me was, do you guys have any, any labels or notifications that you may be putting inside the cab? I know you guys are making a whole package, Sterilift, cab, but I wonder if that's something you guys are considering or already doing.
Yeah, we've been asked about
that.
that a couple times. We'll be more than happy to make a sticker or something to go inside the car. Really, it's going to come down to, I think at some point with what's going on with COVID, people are going to want to see something there. I don't know if we're at that point yet architecturally, with people saying they don't want some little ugly sticker. But we could definitely start putting out something and providing it with the unit. So at the discretion, if the building owner wants it, absolutely, you can have some kind of a notice there saying that this elevator is currently being treated by Sterilift, or whatever the case may be. But we could put something together.
Yeah, I agree. I think in the early stages of what we're dealing with, I think that could be a very positive thing. So. Okay, let's wrap this up. Thank you very much, Nick and Carlos, for today's presentation. Sterilift is available, again, from CEC Elevator Cab. You can find more details on sterilift.com or contact Nick directly. All his detailed contact information will be emailed to you, as well as this presentation. So I'd really like to just thank almost over 150 attendees. Nick and Carlos, really like to thank you guys for an excellent presentation on a very interesting subject.
Thank you, Bruce.
Yeah,
right,
thank you, Bruce, and thank you, everybody, for your time.
Yeah, really. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, great. Y'all have a good afternoon. Appreciate it, everybody. Take care.
Take care.
Thanks.